Chapter 10, A New Discovery. Elder Mahen Dilo. I wondered what was happening outside of Niveden. Information was coming to me slower than the snails could crawl. The Nivens guarding my tents eyed me with hostility. Up until now, they still blamed me for the events that happened in the ghost town. And who could refute this? A crawling ladybug managed to make it into my tent. I was glad that it did live for more than a month. I lowered my finger to where it was crawling and put the ladybug near my ear. Finally, some news from the outside could reach me. The ladybug spoke to me in garbled sounds, and I even had a hard time understanding it. I schooled my face so that no emotion showed. A Niven turned to look at me, and I leaned back to give the impression that I was trying to get some sleep. The Nivens went to Canellan Palace to gather a little Ashen girl. The Emperor was mad. Thousands dead. All right, I already knew all these. The boy is being pursued. At that, I wondered, why? The mystery of the boy was still unresolved. He was, to put it bluntly, quite ordinary. That was the part that I did not understand. Why would the Emperor be so keen on killing the boy? The ladybug continued making some almost inaudible sounds. A boy was found dead, gray skin. This made me pause. Preposterous. If someone among the Nivens had been killed, the news would have already reached me. Unless there was something the Nivens were not telling me, and them hiding a secret was no surprise. After all, keeping a secret was what they were excellent at. A boy with gray skin was found dead. Does Andoni know this? Do I dare tell him, or do I let him find out on his own? If I did, I could gain his trust. On the other hand, he would want to know the source of my information. I gave him my word that I wouldn't speak to my friends while held captive, and him knowing I talked to a ladybug would raise doubts about my integrity yet again. Such unfortunate timing indeed. But I could sense that the Nivens were on their toes, and at any point, I could convince them to join the Elders Guild to oust this joke of an emperor. Somehow, there had to be another way. The ladybug stopped making sounds, and I knew there was no more news to share. Just then, a young Niven walked near my cell. He sat outside the tent on a chair, his back against the entrance. He was tall and probably barely a man. 18 moon turns was the age I put on him. Do you think we're in danger? He asked. His back was still turned to me, and so I was surprised to hear him address me. Who's to say what could happen next with the Emperor still maintaining control over the land? I said. If I could convince the Nivens one at a time, I could still consider myself successful with my task. I have no idea about the Emperor. Akeans don't talk about him here much, he said. Do you want to learn more about him? The young man did not reply. Accumulation of knowledge is powerful. Even the strongest swords break without knowledge, and a stick can earn a man a crown if he knows how to use it, I said. What did he do then? I racked my brain. When was it that the Emperor started to draw suspicion from the elders? The Emperor ravaged your land, killing each Niven. He flooded Niveden. That's a story from such a long time ago that sometimes, I feel like it is only a tale, he replied curtly. Never forget. The problem with Nivens is that your memories easily fade. Forgive, but never forget, I said. The young man shifted uneasily in his seat as though he wanted to understand what I said. As though he wanted to agree to it but was unsure what my intentions were. That being the case, he decided just to remain as stubborn as he could get. It's not a tale, I continued. Only a fool would believe it to be so, I said. The impact I wanted my words to have on him manifested. He glanced at me, eyes sharp. Don't call me a fool, he hissed. Then stop acting like one, I replied. He turned his back to me again. A long time ago, Northsum Mendelammerk ruled Akia. He was a well-loved emperor, but there were rebellions every now and then, as was true with any rule. Regardless, the land flourished because he acted righteously. The young man laughed dryly. That's such a strong word. From what I know, he was that, I defended. Then why did he leave us alone and let McQuinn Stormaren rule? He died, I said. You cannot fault anyone for dying. A body was not found. The records did not show anything about finding his body anywhere. I bet he's in hiding. At that, my eyebrows rose. As though he sensed my surprise, the young lad added, I read a lot. The Niven elders chronicled everything in their libraries. And I have a bad habit of sneaking when it's late in the night to learn about the rest of the world. If this young man could easily break their rules, I told myself, he would not be hard to convince to agree to my mission. All I had to do was throw the right questions. McQuinn Storm didn't start as a hateful man. He was, if I may put it, a good candidate for leadership. I had seen him grow from a grape picker to the princess's consort. But power could make evil come out of any man. Princess? He asked. I frowned. There was a princess of Canella. Somehow, I can't remember if it was a dream or a memory. What happened to the princess? What's her name? This time, the young man turned to face me. I was trying to remember everything I could about the Canellan princess, but nothing came to me. I couldn't remember anything about her at all. Did she die or something? Or something, maybe, I said, confused. Why was it that I remember a princess and yet could not recall her name or her face? Was there ever really one? He said. If there was a princess, where was she? I shook my head, stunned that I was left with no retort. Why could I not recall anything about the princess? Maybe it was a dream. I don't know. It was probably an old maid's tale. And yet, I could remember the moment that McQuinn Storm declared himself the emperor instead of only a consort to a queen. I swallowed. I'd like to think that I was not so old. And yet, why was my memory failing me? This Elders Guild. Isn't your friend Elder Tala a member of it? He asked sarcastically. That was a mistake. The Elders Guild was supposed to ensure balance over Akean in case the Emperor did something that could put the safety of the people at risk. We were supposed to provide intervention, and yet that moment Elder Tala openly supported the Emperor had brought a conflicted imbalance to the Guild. How can we trust you if this guild you're talking about is also as divided? He spat out. There is always some form of imperfection in any organization, but it doesn't mean the whole organization will collapse with one rotten crop. Especially if the rot had been carved out. The young man fell silent. After a while, he said, I know you're telling the truth. I studied history. To this emperor, may we find justice over what he did to our land. You were affected by the death of Nivedon, I said. It was a moot thing to say. Everybody was, he said. I lost a brother because of the emperor. What's your name? I asked, interested. Kogi, he said. And your clan? Your last name? None. Since our family had been broken, we lost our right to keep one, he murmured. This brother, did he die in the flooding? Sometimes, I wished he had. Then we wouldn't have been so disgraced. I waited for Kogi to share more, but he fell silent after that. I was optimistic that when the next Niven Hall meeting arrived, Kogi would be easier to convince. Gods, I hoped I was right.